us see how their mob manners fare against the shock of good conduct!
I think one of the main reasons behind the success of the X-Men in the Marvel Universe is the sheer uniqueness of these superheroes that stand out. The very concept of mutants, used as a clever analogy for those marginalized in the society, has given us some brilliant stories and fascinating characters. The mutants in the X-Men universe are often categorized according to their powers, but there is one group that stands above the rest. Yes, I'm talking about the Omega-level mutants, and this is an actual in-canon classification. Now, this is not just about being the most powerful, but the Omega-level mutants actually have no upper limit to their dominant power sets. The formal definition has come much later in House of X 2019 number 1 by Jonathan Hickman, and the definition continues to grow and evolve. In this video, I will explore 10 Omega-level mutants today, and let us keep in mind that the category has changed over the years, including new mutants and eliminating old ones. I will try to set the list from the most to least powerful, based on some of their feats, and I will stick to the current Marvel status associated with them. I think Legion has established his place as one of the most powerful Omega-level mutants, and in order to understand his powers, you must know more about his backstory. Legion was born as David Haller, and he is the son of Professor Xavier and Gabrielle Haller. Xavier had an affair with Gabrielle, and when he left, he didn't even know that she was pregnant with his son. Gabrielle hid this piece of information from Xavier, and he learned about it only after founding the New Mutants. David was born as a mutant, and it was later suggested in Moira McTaggart's journals that David's birth was actually engineered by Xavier and Moira after the professor felt the need for a mutant with reality-warping powers. David first learned about his mutant ability during an attack on his family, after his stepfather was killed before his eyes. He used his latent psionic powers to incinerate the brains of the attackers, and in the process, he also realized that he could telepathically contact all his victims and experience their thoughts and emotions as they died. This attack also merged the consciousness of the leader of the assassins, Jamil Karami, and it took years to be separated. The traumatic event splintered his personality into multiple alters, and each controlled a different psionic power. I would say this fractured mind is related to his Omega status because it gives him access to virtually unlimited power types, some of which are not even known yet. From telekinesis to telepathy, reality warping, and time travel, he can do it all, and he is literally a god-level mutant. Among his reality-bending feats, I have to talk about the way he accidentally created the whole Age of Apocalypse timeline by traveling back in time to kill Magneto, only to accidentally kill his own father, Professor Xavier. This prevented the formation of the X-Men and allowed Apocalypse to conquer the world years ahead of schedule. But I think his greatest accomplishment is the fully realized pocket universe known as the Alter that he created inside his own mind. This takes place in the Way of X 2021 storyline, and it shows the extent of his powers. It became a permanent, physically enterable sanctuary for an entire nation of mutants, and you can see it as the headquarters for the Legion of X team. Jean Grey. I know you are probably thinking of the whole Phoenix Force saga, which makes Jean Grey godlike, but even without the Phoenix Force, she is one of the strongest mutants around. After all, it is not everyone who can outmatch Professor Charles Xavier telepathically. Also, she has accomplished things with her power that are nearly impossible. For instance, in X-Men Hellfire Gala number 1, she was able to remove Scott's visor and look directly into his eyes while replacing the visor without sustaining any injury. Just to give you some context, Cyclops' optic blast is compared to the output of a nuclear power station at 2 gigawatts of energy per second. I also love her story, where her mutant abilities manifested as a young teenager following the tragic death of a childhood friend. Professor Xavier realized that her powers were way too strong, and he dampened them psychically until the time she was mature enough to control them. As a core member of the X-Men, she has been a part of countless missions, and her skill set is quite diverse. She is an Omega-level telepath and an Omega-level telekinetic, and she has been canonically as the most powerful person in the universe, with unlimited potential. She can manipulate memory, read the deepest and most secretive thoughts of an individual, cast illusions, and she is a pro when it comes to psychic combat. We have all seen her psychic reconstructions of Wolverine's fragmented memories over the years, and I think one of her most remarkable accomplishments that shows you the extent of her psychic powers was in X Lives of Wolverine. Here, she and Professor Xavier sent Wolverine's consciousness back through his own memories across decades to deal with a time-traveling threat. If this is not Omega-level stuff, I don't know what is. Elixir. Death in the X-Men universe is not the end, and you can thank Elixir for their ability to cheat death every once in a while. I find his origin story rather interesting because Elixir, aka Joshua Foley, was once a member of the hateful anti-mutant group known as the Reavers. After his powers manifest, he saves a fellow mutant, but he soon gets abandoned by his parents and is forced to join the Xavier Institute for Higher Learning. He eventually became a part of the New Mutants, and on M-Day, he was one of the few who retained their mutant powers. Elixir has been a part of some very important events across the X-Men universe, and his Omega-level powers have been proven time and time again. However, if you ask me about one feat that really stands out for me, I would probably talk about the Foundation of the Five, a group of mutants capable of resurrection. He was an important member of this group, and together they could create new cloned bodies for the deceased mutants to restore their bodies along with their powers and memories. The Five have resurrected the likes of Cyclops, Archangel, Wolverine, Mystique, Marvel Girl, and Nightcrawler, and they are considered as something sacred that is to be treasured. Elixir has insane biokinesis abilities where he can control any biological structure to the genetic level. This allows him to produce biomolecular energy that affects any organic matter he touches, and he can heal any physical damage done to himself or others. I don't think such life force manipulation is possible without serious Omega-level powers, and I am intrigued to see how Marvel deals with his story arc going ahead. Magneto. This is the OG of the X-Men universe, and he has been both an ally and an adversary for the X-Men. His accomplishments are many, and I still cannot get over the time when he removed the adamantium from Wolverine in a fit of rage. However, it was only recently in 2021 in Planet-Size X-Men that he did something truly Omega-level. He led a team of Omega-level mutants to terraform Mars into a livable planet within hours during the first Hellfire Gala. During the process, he pulled a massive iron asteroid and reforged the molten core of the planet. Also, in terms of showing the extent of his power, you probably remember the time in X-Men number 25, Fatal Attractions, when he caused a global EMP blast to cripple Earth's entire electronic system. His primary ability is to manipulate magnetic fields, and this allows him to achieve a wide range of effects. The Master of Magnetism, Eric Lehnsherr, or Magneto, is largely known to the fans for his extreme methods and cynical philosophy, where he is usually opposed to Xavier's idea of human-mutant coexistence. But during times of crisis, he has put their differences aside to fight for a common cause. And I love how Magneto has gone from being a supervillain to an anti-hero to a superhero. He was born in the late 1920s to a middle-class German-Jewish family, and his father was a decorated World War I veteran. After the rise of Nazism, he and his family fled to Poland, and they were captured during the German invasion of Poland and sent to a ghetto. He survived even though his entire family was executed, and the tragedy didn't just end there. Later, when he tried to resume a normal life, a mob burned down his home after his powers manifested, and his daughter was inside the burning house. So you can imagine where his hate for humans comes from, and in the more recent X-Men storylines, you will see him take a very different role. The ongoing X-Men 97 celebrated his heroism with his sacrifice, and even the ongoing comics see him in a more positive light.
And reclaim these relics of hatred!
Storm. Ororo Munroe, aka Storm, has been a part of the X-Men universe for over 5 decades now, but it took a lot of time before Marvel officially announced her as an Omega-level mutant. She first appeared back in 1975 in Giant Size X-Men number 1, and her backstory is very different from the other mutants. She has descended from a long line of African witch priestesses, and she was born with certain superhuman abilities. She endured a childhood tragedy where a plane crashed into her house, killing her parents. This left her traumatized, and with time she was taken in by a master thief who trained her to become a skilled pickpocket. Eventually she met Professor Xavier, who convinced her to join the X-Men and used her powers for a greater cause. Storm can manipulate the weather to her advantage, and this includes all forms of weather across vast areas. She has also been able to control extraterrestrial ecosystems, and I used to love it when she would unleash a tornado or a blinding lightning to strike her enemies. Aside from weather control, she has shown certain magical abilities, like that of her ancestors. Of course, with so much going for her, everyone always speculated that she is an Omega-level mutant, but Marvel only confirmed it officially in 2019 with the House of X story arc. The comic book lovers will know about her much-hyped relationship with Black Panther, which made her the Queen of Wakanda during the time they were married. She took on the demon god adversary as the Wakandan weather goddess in Black Panther number 172. However, the resurrection of Magneto's story arc in 2024 takes her powers to a whole different level, when she travels into the afterlife to face the Shadow King, Annihilation, and the First Fallen, in order to bring Magneto back to life, and she succeeds. Quentin Quire. When I think of Quentin Quire, the first thing that comes to mind is how he led a violent student uprising in Xavier's Institute. He was a disillusioned student who led this movement as a part of the Omega Gang, and this takes place during the riot at Xavier's storyline from New X-Men number 135 through 138. Now, this entire event is rather unfortunate because Quentin was identified as a promising prize pupil of Xavier. He was an extremely powerful telepath, but his power was never fully defined. On his birthday, his parents told him that he was actually adopted, and this seemed to destabilize him considerably. Later, he took a group of like-minded students into town and convinced them to overdose on the mutant drug Kick. This drug could boost the abilities of mutants up to 5 times their normal levels, and it became the trigger point. This is what accelerated the full potential of his existing powers, and it also triggered a secondary mutation that converted his physical body into faster-than-light psionic energy. Quentin Quire has incredible telepathic powers and telekinesis powers, and when combined with his genius-level intellect, he can be quite a handful. His telepathic ability is second only to Jean Grey, and I am fascinated by his special ability that he calls the Construct, where he builds an entire world inside his head complete with an AI system and NPCs with their own backstories. You know he is a solid Omega-level mutant from the fact that he has defeated Professor Xavier in psychic combat on more than one occasion. Also, in New X-Men number 138, 2003, his body survives something that is impossible for regular mutants. He dissolved entirely into psionic energy, and it seemingly killed him outright before Zorn's power revived him and reconstituted him. I think Marvel is yet to tap the best of Quentin Quire, and we will see more of him in the times to come. Hope Summers. Hope Summers is a special mutant because she is the first mutant born after the events of M-Day wiped out nearly all mutant powers on Earth. She had no biological father because her mother Louise was impregnated through the Phoenix. Her birth was a special moment and caused such a psychic shockwave that it destroyed the mutant locating computer Cerebro on the spot. What is so unique about Hope is that her true ability is to take the power of anyone else and make it significantly stronger. She has been raised by Cable across the time stream so as to protect her from anti-mutant hunters, and also a hostile future version of Bishop, and I find her entire storyline very interesting. She can easily copy, amplify, and coordinate the abilities of powerful mutants around her, and she is immune to anything similar done to her, which makes her nearly invincible. Hope has done some crazy stuff, and I would say her most special ability is tied to the Phoenix. As White Phoenix, she has reversed the effects of M-Day, and this allowed new mutants to be born once again. She was also a part of the Five, which I have explained earlier in this video, and this gave her a huge responsibility of resurrecting the deceased mutants. What really stands out for me is the way she coordinated with Elixir, Proteus, Tempest, and Egg's separate powers in a single working resurrection process, and she ultimately sacrificed herself to bring back the Phoenix Force entirely in X-Men Forever 2024 number 4. She still lived on in spirit in the White Hot Room, which enabled the resurrection protocols. Iceman. I know many of us think of Iceman as the funny guy in the team, but it was a surprise for me when it was revealed that it was unconsciously holding back an Omega-level power the whole time. Iceman, or Bobby Drake, is one of the founding members of the original X-Men, and he has the ability to generate extreme cold and convert his own body into ice. Like many other mutants hunted in the society, he found shelter in Xavier's school, and he was the youngest member of the X-Men. However, something changed his fate forever. When Emma Frost's mind was temporarily trapped inside his body, it subconsciously taught him to stop self-limiting his power, and after she left, his abilities were no longer bounded. The confirmation came in House of X era, and it was about time. Iceman has such an absolute control over cold that he can freeze light itself and generate living ice constructs. He played a key role in terraforming Mars' polar ice caps at the Hellfire Gala, and perhaps his most impressive accomplishment was when in Amazing X-Men 2013 number 2, he froze an entire stretch of Marvel Afterlife Dimension of Hell as he rescued Nightcrawler's soul from his demonic father Azazel. Among all the Omega-level mutants that I have discussed so far, I think he is the only one who went from a very normal mutant origin to achieving such god-level powers. Professor X. Professor Charles Xavier needs no introduction for the X-Men fans as the founder of the titular group. His wisdom and compassion have been the defining characteristic of the mutant superheroes, and over the years he has trained and guided some of the most powerful mutants ever. His calm and sensible persona often makes me forget just how powerful he really is as a psychic, and there are far too many instances that confirm his Omega-level status. However, I don't think anything can match up to what he did as the memory backup during half of Krakoa's resurrection protocol, when he repeatedly downloaded and stored the minds of every mutant on Earth, while also leading a normal life on the side. Such telepathic multitasking is simply unheard of. Among all the Omega-level mutants in this video, Professor Xavier was the last one to be officially confirmed, during a psychic duel with Quentin Quire in X-Men number 13. His mind-reading, memory manipulation, and illusion-creating powers are next level, and even the likes of Magneto have been helpless when faced with his telepathic abilities. It wouldn't be an overstatement to say that he is the most famous and respected telepath in the Marvel Universe, and even more than his powers, I would say that his invaluable guidance is what sets him apart from the others. Without him, the mutant world would have been very different, because it is difficult to be a diplomat when you are marginalized from the society. Forge. I have watched way too much of Forge and his brilliance in the ongoing X-Men 97 animated series, but he has been a significant character for a while now. That being said, his Omega-level status is probably the most interesting twist from Marvel, because he was always portrayed as someone who is definitely not Omega-level and yet manages to get the job done with his limitations. He is a mutant who has a gifted ability to understand and design technology, and this makes him a master inventor and engineer. Let's not forget his contribution in the creation of Cerebro, which is easily one of Xavier's most used machines. He is connected to the Cheyenne people, a tribe of Native Americans, and he has also served in the US Army. Even though he lost his arm and leg during a bomb explosion, he built suitable prosthetics to continue functioning normally. He continued to work as an innovator, and one of his inventions depowered Storm, who is an Omega-level mutant herself. In the House of X 2019 number 1 storyline, Forge was literally used as the counterexample to Magneto. You see, previously his technopathy could theoretically be surpassed only by a skilled non-mutant, but all that was about to change. In X-Force 2024 number 1, Forge ran a self-experimentation, and this pushed his power past all measurable limits and transformed him into an Omega-level mutant. Now, he has developed instinctive technopathy, which allows him to detect world-ending events before they even happen. However, even before he became an Omega-level mutant, he did something that left me in awe. In the 2008-era Astonishing X-Men, Forge built a functioning device that could physically travel to parallel Earths across the multiverse and spy on them. As someone who really enjoys the accomplishments of Forge, I expect to see him in the limelight more often now that his status has been further uplifted. These Omega-level mutants have a legacy that is unmatched, and as a fan, I can only hope that the ongoing and future X-Men storylines extend the legacy further. I would love to hear from you in the comments below about your favorite Omega level mutant from the list, and also tell me about a mutant that you think deserves the Omega level status ASAP. If you appreciate the efforts to bring you this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such videos.